Welcome to the Ask the Zamboni Experts podcast. Recently, I was in Colorado and we got to have a little bit of a chat and just wanted to kind of follow up here and share with the people what's been going on in Colorado. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
Tony, so for the people who don't know you, you work for the Colorado Avalanche. You've been there for 2 Stanley Cups. And you have a pretty cool story. So what's it been like to start under a Pierre Lacroix as a general manager, winning that first Stanley Cup back in 2002, all the way up to Joe Sakic, who was a player and now GM? How have things kind of changed and transitioned for you over the last 20 or so years?
Well, I will admit, when I got the job at the Pepsi Center / Ball Arena, I was a rookie. I had no idea what it was like to be in the NHL. And Pierre kind of took me under his wing. He would come down and fix screws with me, talk about ice. He was a great leadership role person for me to learn from. He also had such a nice, high standard of how he wanted things done that it was easy to attain that, but it was also a level that you knew you were doing your best possible job. Now with under Joe, he also tool leads under Pierre, and so it's very, very similar, probably even a little better because Joe kind of kicks his own way of thinking into it, and he does his stuff, and he's got the player backing, so he understands what there is. It's just the best of both worlds to have them be part of the organization.
It sounds like they're both very hands-on, seeing those guys over the years and things of that sort. What is your interaction with those guys? Do you see them on a daily basis? Do you see them on a weekly basis? Kind of how much input and how much do they come down and talk to you, just as far as where the ice is and what's going on in the rink?
Well, the nice thing is that they can come down anytime they want, and we do see them. But to be honest, around us, we kind of like stay in our both worlds and only really cross over, unfortunately, probably when there's a problem. No news is good news sometimes. They will come through and say hi and how's it going, and you go from there, but it's really not any sit down of anything that they really need to know that day, unless it's very strange and something has happened and we have a mistake or something has happened where we have to go off schedule or things of that sort.
So you bring that up as far as challenges and things of that sort. In a building as busy as Ball Arena, where you guys are doing concerts, you have the National Lacrosse League with the Mammoth in there. You have the Denver Nuggets, and obviously you have the Avalanche. What are some of your biggest challenges as far as keeping that ice cold and ready to go?
Well, the biggest one we have is that each of those events that you mentioned, they all have a different temperature for the building. And to get that latent heat out of the building in a short period of time takes a lot to do. We also probably have our worst enemy, which is concerts, because they use the whole floor, and there's usually spills on the floors, and those will go into the ice and make divots and have to be cleaned out and made nice. Just takes time. As you know, ice is forgiving, but you need time to do all these things. And that's our hardest thing is that we may see the ice at 5 a.m. and then they have to turn it over at midnight, and that's the only time we get to see it for maybe 3 days.
Wow. So, I talked to a lot of people around the country and around the globe, really, with different types of environment, heat, humidity, dehumidification. Do you feel like you have an advantage or a disadvantage at being at over 5,000 feet and in an environment like Denver where the temperature can swing so much and so often?
I have the best advantage there is because my humidity is nothing. And my water is good. My temperature is pretty even and consistent throughout the winter. I have the best of both worlds for temperatures wise. It doesn't mean that we don't have challenges, but our challenges are much different. We have challenges where we might go a long period of time and we get a little dry out because we are so dry. We can shrink. Things of that sort. I lose ice probably as every time we're covered because of the dryness, things of that sort. But in the overall picture of good quality of ice, I have an advantage.
So, Tony, shifting gears for a minute, you and I are talking about, and hopefully we we move forward here. We're going to get you guys some new electric Zambonis in Colorado. But you kind of have a cool story as far as why you want these machines and kind of how they came from. You drove the machines in the Olympics. Kind of what was that process like? How'd you get selected for that? How'd you get on some Olympic machines? And then tell us what your thoughts and process was as far as being on them.
Well, I was chosen to go to the Olympics with a different with a team from all over the world. We had 3 Canadians and 6 Americans, and basically it was to help the Koreans drive, but actually we had to drive. They just didn't have enough seat time. So I got picked because I was available. I fit into the program, the time frames, things of that sort. I knew a few of the people I was going over with. That helped too. And when we got there, they had all electric machines, and I just fell in love with them because some days we made ice so much because we had 3 games. We were getting it ready, either clearing away or things of that sort, or building, that they just stood up so well for me that I was just totally amazed by how well they worked on the ice.
Did you get to use any of the other tech that we kind of have on our machines right now with the fast ice, the level ice, Zamboni Connect? Have you used any of those features yet? And kind of what are your thoughts and background on those?
Well, I haven't actually used them. I have used level lasers before on different machinery. I understand that concept. The idea of putting out water, just to me, is just similar to what we use when we hose flood with a bar. You're just doing it on the machine. The principle is there, so why wouldn't it work? And then the Connect is something for us that our machines, I'll be honest, they sit more than they're used. So I know what's going on with them a lot. So it wouldn't fit my application, but it would fit other applications where you're not sure of exactly who's using what or what machine's being what. I like the idea, and I could see how it could fit the industry, especially someone who started in a community rink. They would be the best.
So you're saying application-wise for the Zamboni Connect would probably be a better fit for the practice facility versus your game day facility?
Oh, yeah. Most in a practice facility, it would be great. So would the level ice in a practice facility. To be honest, we have too many conversions, too many things that could bump it. It would just not be where we need it. Plus, our time constraints, we really need to get on the ice, do it, and get off. And if we were trying to make sure it was in the right place, that might hamper us in some ways.
So when you make these kind of decisions, right, obviously you've had seat time, you've driven the machine before, you know what you like. Where does this discussion go? Do you talk to players? Do you talk to management? Who helps make these decisions? Obviously, you're the guy who's doing this day in and day out. But who else has input as far as when you change equipment and you change machinery?
Well, a lot of it comes from my engineers, my HVAC techs. They are great about knowing machinery and engineering, things of that sort. It really comes down for us is what will fit in our space that we have. And a Zamboni will work perfectly for what we need. It's the right size. It does everything we need. We can work on it if we need to, things of that sort. Those are the issues that come in from people in the building, more so than the driving, because they, like everybody else in this world, have never driven one, and they have no idea what it takes to drive it and what kind of things you need, from an icebreaker to a wash water, things of that sort. So really those decisions are made with my team, the drivers.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, we were in Columbus, Ohio at the NHL operators meetings. A great event. Mike Craig led the charge on that. As far as the NHL having a lead person when it comes to ice maintenance and ice techs and things of that sort, how much do you lean on the league for those type of questions, just to say, hey, this is the standard, this is where we need to be? Or do they lean back on you because of your environment in your area that you guys are?
It's really hand in hand. And I have to reach out to Dan Craig, who took over. He was my mentor when I first started, and it's Mike Craig's father. But He was the one that would swing by sometimes, see how things were going. He was also there a little bit for engineering issues, so we got to see a lot of him in the early years. And then he completely worked all of the finals, so we saw him that first year, and he was a big influence on things, on way of doing, procedures, how much ice to carry, things of that sort. I literally had to learn from him for the NHL level. And nowadays, I call Mike usually when I'm not sure of something, either if it's dealing with a temperature or if it's with boards and glass, things of that sort.
So you work in outside events and other different events. Do you do the Winter Classic? Do you do any of the outdoor games or anything like that?
I've been very fortunate. I've got to do the two in Colorado. I did the one at the stadium and the one at the Air Force football stadium. They were wonderful. Now, you cannot take any of your science from inside to outside. It's a whole nother animal that you're dealing with. Plus, it's a portable ice floor. So you have the movement, the thickness. It's just a whole nother animal, which is cool. It was neat to work with, but it is very different. Plus, when we were in the baseball stadium, we had too warm temperatures, and when we were in the Air Force, we had too cold temperatures. So Mother Nature can be tough to work with sometimes, but they are very neat events because you are, like, I was able to stand on the middle of a rink, flood it at 2 a.m. in the morning and look around, and you could see the baseball scoreboard, the football stadium. Those memories are very, very cool.
That's awesome. You speaking of memories, right? You've been a part of 2 Stanley Cup championship teams. You've been to the Olympics. You've done an outdoor game. Looking back, all your hockey experience, do you have, I don't want to say number one, but do you have a top three moments that you'll never forget as far as experience wise?
Well, winning the Stanley Cup on my home ice my very first year is probably the biggest. But you know what memory I have? I have a Saturday, no, actually it was Sunday mornings, being able to go to the rink. Nobody is there, which is very unusual. Being able to make the ice perfect and trying to make that perfect sheet of ice. I know you never get there for a perfect sheet of ice, but you keep trying, and dang, that day I was sure close.
That's awesome. So for the young ice makers or up and comers who are out there, what advice would you give to those guys to get to a professional level where you're at? Where do you start? How do you go about it? What's the mindset you should have? What advice would you give those guys?
Well, anybody that's in a community rink or a non-professional ice rink, you just need to see different situations, from making ice for little kids to all the way up to beer league to all the way up to maybe even college. I got to cut my teeth on college, and that's a really good way to learn things, because you usually do see things that happen at that level that you won't see in a community rink. But also, it's not as hard. They're not as hard on the ice as the professionals. I would say that it's just learn about water. I love chemistry, and the more you know about the water, which is your main ingredient, the better. Temperature goes along with that, humidity, the different hardnesses of water, things of that sort. All those are what we usually key in. We do use and key in at this level of the NHL. And that's how you get there. If you know all of that stuff, somebody will see that and you'll be able to move up.
Tony, I think that's all I got for you. I appreciate your time and, really thank you and looking forward to get you in some new electric machines with some of our new tech, like the fast ice and level ice systems on there.
Well, good. Me too. I've always been, just to give you some background, I told you that, the first Zamboni I drove was a 1957 that was a clutch driven, that you stalled every other 2 feet. You didn't have enough power. You didn't have enough anything with it to do it. You just babied it along, to nowadays that they are so wonderful to drive and that your quality of ice is tremendous. That's what a Zamboni does for ice. I also feel that the Zamboni is so strong in that its size is just perfect for a rink. It's not too big and not too small. And And that size comes in when you're making sure you pick up all your spots, when you're making sure that you're close to the boards. All of that matters, and that's where I feel that the Zamboni has an advantage over others. So if you want my 2 cents, that's why I drive them, and that's why I love them, to be honest.
No, I appreciate it, and I love the plug. Tony, what I love about you is the fact that you're not only just an ice tech guy, but you're also a driver yourself, and you do it on game days and things of that sort as well. So the fact that you're in it and you live it and you experience it every day, it's just something that can't be replaced. So thank you very much.
No problem.